Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Wolverine number 48, cover dated November 1991. The cover is by Marc Silvestri and Dan Green. What we're looking at here is we're looking at Logan from the Weapon X series. So Larry Hama here delving into Logan's past and writing, in effect, Shiva Scenario Part 1, the sequel to Weapon X, which had just finished publication in Marvel Comics Presents Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X earlier in 1991. And yeah, so Larry Hama, very much an admirer of Weapon X. We can see here in the first collected edition of the series that he wrote an epilogue, kind of piece praising Barry Windsor Smith's work. This slim volume is a rare example of comic book artistry simply because it is of a piece. It is such a seamless melding of writing and drawing that one cannot be separated from the other. It is impossible to tell where one ends and the other picks up. So he goes through his analysis of Weapon X and finishes by acclaiming it a piece of work, as in a great piece of work. And that was written in October 1992. So it's very clear that Hama was an admirer of Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. And whether the directive came from editorial, from Bob Harris, or whether he himself suggested it, he has decided to explore what Barry Windsor Smith created in the Weapon X storyline in this sequel. One other thing to note with the cover here is that Marc Silvestri is changing his design for Wolverine and becoming much more influenced by the style of Wolverine that Jim Lee was drawing over on Uncanny X-Men. So you see on the back of this issue, we've Jim Lee's version of Wolverine. And we are getting pretty much Marc Silvestri following that version of the character rather than the one he was doing earlier in issues 31, 32, and 33 of his run on Wolverine. So, and also what we're getting cross-hatching rather than exclusively feathering in Dan Green's inks. So Green himself looking to the likes of Scott Williams and the cross-hatching of Scott Williams for inspiration and appealing to the readership of the time. So the story opens with 4 horizontal full-page panels, and there's a keep out sign there, a nuclear warning, and the location is Alberta, Canada, and it's Logan who is breaking into this facility. So wild and woolly. There shouldn't be a pup tent within 20 miles of this blind valley, he says, let alone a big fenced-in nuclear research facility. So this facility will turn out to be the facility that was the location for the Weapon X program, or Experiment X as it was called in Barry Windsor Smith's saga. So the title of this story is Dreams of Gore, so obviously a play on Dreams of Yore, Phase 1. And the creative team down here, Larry Hama script, Marc Silvestri pencils, Dan Green inks, Pat Brousseau lettering, and Steve Buccellato on colours. And once again, you can see here how Silvestri's design for Wolverine is changing, influenced by Jim Lee. And you can see that cross-hatching there in Dan Green's inks. So cross-hatching on the musculature on Wolverine's arm and also the musculature on his legs. Very different from the exclusive feathering style prior to this. So great splash page there of Logan, and he is wearing a jacket, a sleeveless jacket with lots of straps on it and all sorts. Looks like he is ready to do some digging around in his past here. And Jubilee is with him, and so is Harry Tabeshaw, who has been their native guide to this part of Northern Alberta. Jubilee saying, in response to Wolverine's question about whether she's going to come with him, she says, "I sure don't want to start glowing in the dark or developing any weird new talents." Wolverine jokes with her, "You're going chicken on me, Jube? This place has been abandoned for years." And she makes the point, radiation sticks around for centuries, Wolvie. But he says, the Puzzle Palace spooks. So Secret Service hang nuke warnings on any facility that they don't want the public peeking into. And Tabeshaw has been their guide to this location, but he says that's as far as he's going. And Wolverine says to him, "You didn't blink twice when Ronald Parvenu hired you to track down the Hunter in Darkness for him." So that was the previous storyline in the title. "I thought you didn't believe in stuff like forest spirits, Tabeshaw," he asks him. And their guide responds as he waves them goodbye. "I don't, but I do believe in being careful. I backtracked all the Hunter's lairs to this place that isn't even on the survey maps. Other animals had taken over the old lairs, even though they had a strong predator scent. But this place, this is something else," he says, as he walks off that pathway. Down that pathway, not a single animal ever goes near this place. Not an owl, a snake, nor a mouse. Think about that. So that's really setting the scene that there is something dangerous in this facility, in the heart of it. And again, I like, as ever, Marc Silvestri's choice of shot, where he puts us inside the ruined facility, looking out at Tabeshaw as he's walking down that pathway away from the facility. It's an interesting shot choice. Good stuff here. So Jubilee's putting on roller skates of all things, and she is taking advantage of the tarmacadam surfaces of the facility. And Wolverine, though, is busy at work, wondering about how to get in. Steel reinforced concrete buildings with no windows, solid steel doors, like this place was designed to keep something heavy from getting out or getting in. And look at the telltale 3-claw mark down the front of that heavy steel reinforced door. Jubilee enjoying herself on her roller skates. "I bet you thought I was nuts to drag these blades along on a wilderness trek," she asks him. And he warns her, "Don't be skating down no rabbit holes now." And she says, "Hey, check this out." So that's caught his attention. So let's see what she found. A whole big macadam parking lot. I really like this panel here where she's breaking the panel border on her skates. Wolverine coming after her in silhouette again in this particular panel. It's really interesting variation of the visuals from Silvestri here. And she says, "Sure, but where there's a parking lot in an industrial complex, there's got to be loading bays and garage doors." And so there is. And Wolverine, as he looks, says, I was here, and I don't remember any of it. I was trying to get inside." He sees the claw marks again on the door, and somebody was shooting at me from in there. "If I couldn't claw my way through back then." But Jubilee suggests try the handle. It has to be locked. He says not necessarily. And the garage door flips up. How about that? And there is a classic automobile here in the foreground. That's a really nice, slightly tilted angle. Silvestri using that device of having the characters mostly in silhouette, except for little details of their costumes, like the X belt buckle on Wolverine there, or Jubilee's glasses. And she says, "Oh, look at that car. What is it, Wolvie?" So turn the page, and this is what's going to connect us to Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. It's the car that Logan was driving in the prologue chapter of Weapon X. Marvel Comics presents number 72. You'll find my review of that here on the channel. And let me just take a little quick peek at the prologue chapter and see if we can see that car in it. If I can find it. Let me see. It should be here at the very beginning. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. There is the car right there. And we're going to have a callback to that particular scene from the first chapter of Weapon X coming up shortly. well, on this very page. So Jubilee looking around with her flashlight, Wolverine finds a key in the, the key is in the ignition, and hanging from the key is another key and a pouch, looking like an Indian type pouch. So Wolverine wondering whether the car will start up, next to miraculous if the engine turns over, and it does. And then somebody asks him from behind, Mr. Logan, but it's a flashback. Cold. How did it get so cold? And he's shot with a tranquilizer dart. And these Secret Service goons, they're going to load him. They're going to take him away, but he's real heavy. And he clocks one of them in the jaw. And here we get this scrap that took place. There he is. He slams one of their faces right into the headlight of his car, but he's caught from behind in a lock, and they're going to use the stun gun on him again. But first of all, he's hit with the butt of the stun gun in the head, in the neck there. And this guy here is protesting. Prof's not going to like this. He said no body damage. Sure, says the other guy, but he didn't say what a tough son of a gun he'd be. Well, nobody's so full of tough that it can't be pistol whipped out of him. That's a fact, says the other guy. Look at that nice little slightly tilted angle there as well. Very interesting. And then we're with Wolverine in the present, and he's fallen to the floor. Jubilee's there at his side, wondering what's happened. Maybe you should give up those cigars and take up blade skating, she suggests to him. Nice upshot there, nice lighting as well. And he replies to her, just having some sort of crazy daydream. Couldn't be a fragment of real memory, it was too. But there he sees the broken headlight. So that confirms that maybe it was a memory. Jubilee tells him, I found a door back there. It's like all covered with claw marks, but it's unlocked. What's the deal with this car, she asks. I think it used to be mine, he said. He says, wow, you used to have good taste, she replies. Maybe the registration is still in the glove compartment. And this is a funny bit of dialogue coming up now from Larry Hama. Given, of course, that this was a comic marketed to teens, but also that had a slightly older readership that Hama was catering to as well. So Wolverine says to Jubilee, you find any souvenirs from some hot dates in there, you just leave them be. And she replies, I find any panties, I'm not touching them. And he responds immediately, I was thinking of grenades, darling. So that's kind of funny stuff for the older readers at the time. This is a really nice shot of him here in the wreckage of the facility. Looks like somebody lit off a few frags in here, he says, as well as a few thousand rounds of military ball ammo. That much firepower in an enclosed space. They must have been desperate. So this is shades of the last few chapters of Weapon X, Windsor Smith's Weapon X. Nice upshot there on Wolverine's face. And then we see the reflection, really nicely directed here. The reflection of him exactly in that Weapon X mode in the water. What were they shooting at? What or who? He asks. And then we're going to get another flashback. So the alarms are going, and Wolverine is attacking the Wranglers of the Experiment X facility. And this really takes us to the last couple of chapters of Marvel Comics Presents issues 83 and 84 of Marvel Comics Presents, the last couple of chapters of Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X saga. So we see him running through the facility corridors, slashing at the Wranglers, but also weirdly these spikes that are emerging from the walls around him. And that is a callback to the very last chapter of Windsor Smith's Weapon X, where there was a suggestion and implication that some psychological scenarios were played as part of the Experiment X, not just the lacing of adamantium to Wolverine's skeleton and the real world hunting scenarios, but also psychological scenarios, playing with his head brainwashing as well. So here we are, Logan as Weapon X emerging from the floor and about to attack the professor, just as he did in the penultimate chapter of Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, where he cut off the professor's hand. And something that then we kind of flash back to the present, where someone says, yo, look at what I found. But that's Jubilee's style of speech. But why on earth would you put a handgun to Logan's back? And he responds with instinct there. Looks as if he's about to slash her, but she tells him to chill out. And then, of course, he says to her, like what readers would be thinking, Jubilee, are you nuts? You know how close you came to being slashed? She protests, you're the one standing around in a dark corridor, grunting and breathing heavy. Get a grip. And here, she hands him the handgun. Found this in the Lotus. He must have been a regular James Bond. Why is the handle all taped up? And this is the moment of transition to one of Logan's memories. Better grip, no fingerprints. It's my backup piece, says this blonde-haired figure in shadow. If you're going to insist on packing that regulation pea shooter, you might as well have two of them. So Logan says, you figured this job is that hairy? They're all hairy, far as I'm concerned, says the mystery man. You ready? Okay, let's do it. So they're coming up towards the door of an apartment in a rundown building, and the figure says, of course it's Sabretooth, says, you got some rotten luck, partner, catching a job like this on your birthday. I really feel for you. Yeah, replies Logan, so where's my cake? And Sabretooth says, you want cake in Windsor? You want cake? After this, I'll take you north, cross the river to Detroit, Greek town, get some baklava. And then they're there for the mission. So all of this establishes a kind of partner, buddy relationship between Sabretooth and Wolverine, which is not what readers would have expected at this point, but which was seeded in the previous issue by Hama and Silvestri, so issue number 46. So they're outside this particular door, and we see the spikes emerging, these thorns emerging from the background, and the wires coming out from under Logan's shirt there. Let's get this over with. I want to get back to the hotel in time for the Avengers, says their third Mastodon. So we're learning that the code names that Sabretooth has, Wolverine has, go back to their Secret Service days when they were working together. Time to rock and roll, partner, says Sabretooth. You're the designated kicker, says Logan. Take it down. So let's see what happens. Great spotting of blacks on these pages. Great use of light and shade by Silvestri and Dan Green. And so what they're doing is they're taking out a bunch of anarchists who have weapons, rocket launchers, explosives, grenades. And of course they fire back at Logan and Sabretooth. And Logan is shot in the chest 3 times. But Sabretooth takes out one of the anarchists. And Logan is unconscious from the shots, and Sabretooth is calling out to their third Mastodon, where the heck are you? Wolverine is down, and we see he's fallen down on this magazine that is advertising wild, beautiful Alberta, and look at that snowbound cabin. And long-term readers who'd read Wolverine issue number 10 by Chris Claremont and John Buscema and Bill Sienkiewicz would recognize that cabin in Alberta as the one that Wolverine shared with Silver Fox. So Wolverine here, the spikes coming out of him now, the wires coming out of him. Animal, no. Logan, no, not dead, he's exclaiming. This guy Mastodon arrives. He's shot also in the gut, but he kills one of the anarchists as well as he comes in the window. Great action sequence here from Silvestri. Things are getting wild. We have Sabretooth being shot at as well. And he is insisting that Logan get it together or we're all dead meat. But what's going on with the wires and the thorns? And also we have someone speaking over everything, talking about what's going on in terms of it being an experiment. And the green bordering here reminds readers of Weapon X of the connection between a green border for captions and the professor's dialogue. The brain does not allow itself to remember excruciating pain in precise detail. These are appropriate grey areas to build on, to layer in alternate scenarios. So the story's connecting here. This is Silver Fox, and she's having to break a machine gun free from the dead man's grasp of one of her compatriots. And the team leader here is saying, I got my gun unjammed. Die pigs, he's about to unleash a volley of rounds. And Wolverine here, his suit being blasted off him and firing away with these handguns. Not pig, not animal, not dead. And then we see that it's the professor that he's shot. So there's a fake beard and the hat comes off. It's the professor that he's shot there. And Silver Fox exclaims, pig, stinking, running, dog, fascist pig. You just blew away a true revolutionary and certified genius. You're dead. The professor's dialogue here. The real trick to giving the implant credence lies in artful juxtaposition. The brain would much rather believe an unpleasant fiction than a horrifying truth. The implant overpowers reality by being marginally more palatable. It's all in the placement, you see. And Wolverine just going wild there, roaring, just as he did in the latter chapters of Weapon X. And this really very much looks like an evocation of Wolverine going wild in Barry Windsor Smith's series. And he's there protesting, not animal, not dead, Logan, human, human. And Sabretooth tells him, you got to neutralize the girl. But with his claws extruded, he tells her to drop the gun. Not beast, won't hurt. Sabretooth insists. She said, no, Logan, do her. So Logan knocks the gun out of her hand, and then he picks the pouch from around her neck. Go ahead, pig. I'm not going to grovel for my life, she says. I see the subject's memory as a complex ragout, says the professor, and we are the chefs who have it within their power to determine what shall rise to the top and what shall be skimmed. But Logan recognizes the pouch, and it is again a transition, a moment of transition to the reader's present. And Logan in the facility, he's taken the pouch and keys from Jubilee and just nicked the tip of her hand there, finger rather. I was just holding out the keys to the Lotus Wolvie. You didn't have to stick me, she protests. So he apologizes, and she says, looks like you got a big old padlock key on there too. What's the pouch? Looks Indian. And Logan simply says as he brings his claws back into his forearm, got to get out of this place, Jube. It's jarring loose, too many questions I got to ask Xavier about. So the big padlock key there, what is that a key to? Is it a key to the cabin in Alberta, maybe, that he shared with Silver Fox? Something else? So they walk away, but what they haven't explored is this particular room and this machine here, 02 Shiva, and it's open and there's space there for some humanoid type, and whatever that is, it's loose. So what is all that about? A little mystery for another day. We're heading back to Westchester, darling, says Logan. And she asks him, don't you even want to check out what's in the rest of this place? I've seen enough, he says. But you haven't seen this, Logan. Next month, the answers begin. And next month, Jean Grey, Professor X. So obviously Logan getting the telepaths and the X-Men to go into his head and try and sort out what's real from what's not in respect of his memories, his jumbled memories. Join us for a walk through Logan's mind. It'll be really surprising, no doubt. So letters here, issue 45, praise for Silvestri and Hama and Dan Green, as you might expect and imagine. And there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Wolverine number 48. So part one of the Shiva scenario, and in effect Larry Hama's sequel to Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video in YouTube and share it too. It really helps the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.